Good morning. Here we are. And, I believe we're supposed to be living the good life. That's right. Of course, that definition of good life, that's what's in question. So we'll look at the definition here in just a moment after I share my coffee with you. And don't forget, this is Torah Moments and Coffee and Cookie with the Rabbi. Good coffee. And now, the J. Bob the Builder cookie. Here we go. The immersion, the baptism of the cookie takes place. And 3, 2, 1. You can't leave it in too long or it'll snap off and go straight into that cup. So, what I mean when I say the good life? Am I talking about more money, more advantages, more time off? What am I talking about when I say the good life? I'm not talking about it in the secular sense. I'll be honest with you. I think secular good life is a trap and imprisons people. But let's go to the book of John, chapter 10, and see what it says there. I'm going to start actually in verse... what verse number is this? Verse 7. Therefore, Jesus said again, I tell you the truth. I am the gate for the sheep. All who ever came before me were thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. He will come in and go out and find pastures. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it more abundantly. Some translations say have it more full, but I like the abundantly more than I do the full translation. Actually, I think the Greek supports the abundant more than full. But anyway, cookie, coffee. I think when it's talking about an abundant life, it's talking about a full life. Not riches necessarily. I mean, you can have wealth. There's no sin in having wealth. There's no sin in poverty either, by the way. But the idea of an abundant life is one where you're completely content. I will never be, outside of some miracle, a rich man. No, I live in my little 1,100 square foot house. That's small, by the way. And I have my books. I have a wife. I have a truck. And I have a tractor. And I have a motorcycle. So I guess I have kind of a nice lifestyle. Nevertheless, when the Bible talks about abundant, it's not talking about stuff. That's the important thing to understand. Paul, the apostle, Shaul, said, I've learned to be content no matter what state I be in. I don't think he's talking about Tennessee or Ohio or Kentucky or whatever his condition was. He's learned to be content. And that is the key to abundant life, is the contentment. But how do we recognize abundant life? You, of course, heard the term shalom. Shalom is a word which means peace, but so much more. To have an abundant life, I have to have shalom. Now, this is important to understand because if I have abundant life, I have chofesh. I'm free from the cares of the world. It's not that I don't live in the world. Power bill comes due every month, just like everybody else's. Okay? But I'm free from the aggravation of the world. So let's go back to this word shalom for a moment. The word itself means peace and fullness. I like to think of the shalom like an umbrella. Okay? And all the things from them. See, shalom can mean health. It can be strength. Yes, it can be finances, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being. It's just so much more than how you doing. In fact, in Israel, the common phrase is shalom or shalom aleichem. Okay, the peace of God with you. By the way, if someone says shalom aleichem, the proper response is in reverse, aleichem shalom. I know, 2 words going both directions. If you greet someone with shalom, and it's not uncommon, when it's time to depart company, you might say, instead of saying goodbye, you might say shalom, shalom. Double it down. There you go. Because it's the shalom that is the promise of an abundant life. I have, in my many years, and I mean many, in my many years, I've learned to be content with what God has. See, when I started off in ministry, I really did. I thought someday I'm going to have this huge congregation, and thousands would hear my voice. Kind of like, John the Baptist with the staff. Behold the day of the Lord. I cracked myself up. But my abundant life is found in obedience. And, we've had a congregation in the past of, 100 plus, 150 max, and yet finding contentment in just doing the ministry is where it's at. It doesn't change how many people are sitting out there. It doesn't change the message. It doesn't change the relationship I have with the Lord. The message is the message, and the Lord is the Lord, and those who hear it, it's like this program. We'd like to reach more people for the Lord. But for what? For His glory. Not for mine, not for wealthy, because I ain't getting wealthy doing this. Okay? But for His glory. And I think when I concentrate on His glory, I also find on my side the meaning of life. I have the good life. Every time I have a real need, the Lord meets that need. And sometimes it's been met so supernaturally, it's scary, but good. So as you think about the good life, don't measure it according to your finances or how big your house is or how new your car is. Okay? That's not the measure of the good life. How often do you laugh? Eat well. Have fellowship. Enjoy the people you're around, especially children and grandchildren. See, that's the measure of the good life. It's not just how much you can party down. I'm not even talking about how happy you are, because see, happiness depends on a singular event. Does this make you happy? Does the food make you, happiness depends on happenings. But the good life, that's the constant. That's the joy of the Lord, which is our strength. That's right. His joy is my strength. His joy actually becomes my good life, my joy. So this morning, no matter how rough you think today is going to be, or how difficult the world is around you, let me encourage you. Don't worry about it. Think about it, yes, if you have to. Deal with it if you must. But don't let it become a burden to your soul. That's not good for you. It's not healthy. Do you know what I mean? And so, the reality of the good life is contentment. I live a life, try to. There's always stressors, by the way. Always stressors. Okay? And as a rabbi or as a pastor or a priest, you'd understand we have stressors that are not of our own. And yet, God prevails through all that. Whom He calls, He blesses. And whom He blesses, He equips. And in your life, my dear friends, my believer friends, okay, if there's a stressor, don't worry about it too much, because He will equip you. Everything I go through, good, bad, whatever, all passes through his hands. And sometimes is to make me chuckle. You know what I mean? I think I'm funny. I hope God thinks I'm funny. But sometimes it's to build me up, to buff me out spiritually. That's right. Temptations, trials, and such are meant to build my spiritual character, and sometimes even my body a little bit, called hard work. So this morning, let me encourage you. Truly encourage you to hold on to all those things that are good and recognize them within in front of you. And when it gets rough, let your mind go back to those moments. I have a few things that when life is rough, when I'm feeling out there, I go back and I remember that is when God was there, and that's when God's there, and I know that God is here. So it's there, and here. Got it? All right. So this week we're going to be talking about God has no orphans on Thursday night. And if you feel like you're alone, maybe we can take care of that. Get it fixed. Also, if you have a desire for discipleship, real discipleship, not Bible study, but discipleship, okay? Then you ought to give me a call at the number 719-248-6324. And if you call that number, I'll talk to you about discipleship. But understand, it's a 6-month commitment, weekly instructions, and homework. Okay, you'll be back in school. Okay? So, now let's talk about buttons. Share, like, follow, subscribe, and donate. Hit those buttons, become partners, and let's us together reach the world around us. You see, you're the tool, okay, which is supposed to help reach the whole world. So, if you would, make a little pledge to yourself. You're going to send 2 or 3 programs out sometime this week, okay? There's somebody you know that needs to hear them. With that said and done, it's time for your blessing. And the blessing is always got to be there. Why? Because it's a commandment to give it and a commandment to receive it. Are you ready? Now may the Lord bless you and keep you and cause his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious unto you and lift up his countenance to you, and may give you peace in Yeshua's name. Amen. Amen. If it pleases him, we'll see you tomorrow.